Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for listening. Guess what? My name is not Elena. I didn't come from Russia. I didn't go to university in Russia. If you look at the program, it says that at this time there's Elena. So those of you that have come to see a really nice Russian lady tell a story about rental cars, you're in the right room. It's just changed. I'm sorry. I was due to be on later, so sorry for disappointing you, but I'm not going to talk about rental cars. So what I am going to talk to you is a little bit, this is for a marketing audience. This is about turning data into money. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my company first. So we're an Irish company. We have been around for about 12 years. We're based in Dublin, Irish-owned. Enterprise Ireland is an investor in us. And we do analytics. We analyze people's data for them, particularly for sales and marketing. So I think that should be particularly interesting for sales and marketing leaders in the room. So quite often people will come to us with a problem, with an analytics problem, like I've got loads of data, how do I find this out? Or how do I solve this problem with my database? Or I'm launching a new product, I need to find all these things out from my customer data or my product data. So quite often it starts with a product, or with a problem like this, which turns into a project. And quite often that will evolve over time. For some of our customers, they give us data every Sunday or once a week or once a month, and then we give them back predictions, target lists for marketing. So for some of our customers, we will predict who's going to leave, predict which customers are likely to leave, and then that is used by our customers in retention campaigns. So we typically do that for our telco customers and some other ones as well. I suppose the third type then is where an organisation will come to us and they will want to borrow our data scientists. So we have a bunch of really clever data scientist people, including one of them on our stand today, who can answer all your very technical questions. And people want, they're hard to come by. So organisations come and they want to essentially borrow our staff. And so we have a couple of people in AIB Bank, somebody in Electric Ireland, full time, all the time. So that's the other thing. And finally then, for those of you, I'm sure some of you will have heard of Hadoop and big data. Hadoop is an ecosystem. If you have tons and tons of data, more than in the old days, then you need a new technology for storing it and manipulating it. And the traditional technology, database technologies aren't good enough, which is why Hadoop has become invented. It is a technology that you can throw all sorts of big amounts of data off and lots of variety as well. And I'm sure you've heard some other people mention Hadoop and big data during today's talks. The challenge with big data is that it's an ecosystem with tons of little products in it. It's very hard to do analytics on. And so we've built an analytics product for Hadoop, software product. This is the first conference that we've spoken about our Red Squirrel product here for big data analytics. It's available. It's going to be available for download later this week, I think, Brian. Yeah, fingers crossed. So if you're interested at all, it's also free to download and use, actually. So really innovative, interesting big data product. So that's what we do. Finally then, we have a call center product that helps turn your call center from a cost center into a profit center. And that's implemented in a couple of places. Okay, I wanted to talk about where you guys are at with analytics, where different organizations tend to be. And we have this idea in IDIRO of this escalator of analytics. Most people start in the bottom left. Try to start in the bottom left, and many organizations never really get beyond that. And this is a really useful tool because you go back to the ancient Assyrians and Phoenicians, and they were really good at keeping records. Obviously, there's much more that you can do now with proper analytics tools, but you've got a lot more stuff to measure as well. So how much do we sell? To who? How many products? To which customers? In which segments? In which regions? How did it differ from last year? What's the mix? How does it compare? Which retailers and so on? Reporting on that and providing tools for people to drill down into the data. Although it's at the bottom of the escalator here, it's really can be very valuable for businesses. And a particularly valuable thing is sometimes combining, in your business you will have data typically in different silos. The sales team will have data, marketing may have different data, operations will have data, the product team will have data, all sorts of different parts of the businesses with different bits of data. And what we see a lot is if you can combine that data, firstly, the data often doesn't agree. Finding out why it doesn't agree can be really interesting. And separately, of course, there's a lot of insights when people start to share that data across. The second type is called diagnostic analytics, and that's diagnosing why a change occurred. Not necessarily why something went wrong, quite possibly why something grew, something is going, why is this product selling more? What's different? What's changed? Why are we selling more to this segment, not this segment? And it's digging into it. Again, it's still looking backwards, but it's addressing a particular problem, and that will typically have particular business value associated with it. And then, of course, the third step, and I think Edward talked about it a little bit, is predictive analytics, where you take data and it's not just presenting the data in different ways, it's actually using predictive models. And we heard some of the other speakers talk about it during the day, using the predictive models to start to understand what's going to happen in the future based on what happened in the past. And while that sounds pretty glib, it's actually one of the things, as I say, that you can do is predict which of your customers are going to leave based on what sort of people are currently leaving, and looking at individuals' behaviours. Because leaving any relationship, whether it's a lover or your bank, there's a process that you go through of disengaging. And if you can model that, if you can predict it, using historical data to understand what's going on, that will really help you. So predictive analytics. So you can see this evolution here. And of course, what we find very often with the organizations that we work with is some parts of your organization will be perhaps up here, one or two parts, but there'll be other parts that are down here that simply aren't used to using data to drive the business, to make those decisions with data. So when we ask customers, we often have this discussion, and we show this as part of our analytics workshop. We show this slide and say, where are you? And different people in the organization will point to a different place. And they're all right. Well, they could be all right. They're not necessarily all right, of course. So it's interesting. Now, looking in a bit more detail at that, you can see that to do this stuff, typically it's fairly lightweight. Doesn't require a whole lot of skills and systems and stuff. But to do it really well, of course, you do. You want to get much more into the systems if you can. But to start off is this way. And then as you spend more money and you start to get more value and you start to make more decisions based on data. You know, Google have this definition of the traditional way of making decisions. Organizations make decisions. It's called the HIPPO. Do we know what the HIPPO is? It's the highest paid person's present opinion. So, who's the most senior person in the room? They tell you what the answer is. That's the answer. It's a terrible way to make. Sorry, it's not a terrible way to make decisions. It is. There are better ways to make decisions. Certainly. This gentleman here has heard of the HIPPO. Yeah. So, as you move into, and actually this brings up a good point, because as you move towards better decision making, you have to give up instinct and gut feel and all this stuff that we say is a logical way of making decisions, when in fact it's not. So it's an interesting progression. So let me show you just one example of some of the sorts of things where you can get value from data in analytics. This is a case study. This is some work we did with the technology is working good. Some of you will have heard of the Digital Marketing Institute in Dun Laoghaire. They're a worldwide, they do marketing training. And they sell worldwide. They're a very successful organisation, incredibly successful. And when they were running lectures in Dublin, I was a lecturer on their circuit. It's all online now. But they had a challenge, which was basically to get the best out of their marketing budget, and they use a lot of marketing channels, as you can see. These are some of them here. And what you can see straight away is and if you connect your marketing and sales data, and you look at try to attribute each sale to one or more than one channel, then what you can see, and something we found for them, was that paid search was generating very few sales, even though it was costing them. They were spending a lot of money on it. So very simple. It's a very simple way to act on this, is to stop spending on here, and whatever you're spending on here, move it and spend it on here, or here, or here, or really anywhere else in this matrix. And you will immediately see more results, better results for the same money. Now, I don't pretend it's that simple. And our customer would say, bless you, it's not that simple. But nevertheless, sometimes we get these simple insights that can be worth an awful lot of money to you as the customer. So here's an example. I just want to say, if you were getting started with analytics, and that worked as well, it's supposed to be black. If you're getting started with analytics, I think what I would certainly not do is expend a lot of money on software or skills or services, because I think what's worked best certainly for our own customers, and regardless of who you would choose, I think what's useful is to start by talking to different vendors, working out what's important to you. Pick a small project where there is value to be got for your business, but it is relatively simple to get the data out and analyse it. Pick one thing, do it reasonably well, build a little bit of momentum, and then pick another, and try and work with people, partners, all the way through like that, and to try to build it slowly. I was talking to somebody today who had invested in a software product, and she said it was useless. And actually Claire, my colleague at the back there, and I are going to see a customer tomorrow in Milan who spent a fortune on a software product for analytics, and they don't get any value from it. So just be careful before you spend the big money. Obviously, I think people will tell you the solution, it often isn't, particularly for the smaller businesses. It's digging into it, and so on and so forth. Digging into the data, building slowly, and building the skills internally to make sure you can get the value from it as you go. Anyway, that's all I wanted to cover today.